Istanbul is one of the largest cities in the world, with more than 15 million people. About 13 million tourists visit this city every year to visit Tulip Festival in Istanbul, International Dance Festival, Wednesday Market Istanbul, and street food in Istanbul, How many days do you need to see Istanbul? In the previous articles, we discussed things to know before going to Turkey. In this article from the traveling topic, tourism website, we will give you the answer to the question of how many days you need in Istanbul. So read this article to the end to get the answers to the questions. How many days do you need in Istanbul? Planning a trip to Istanbul is a bit stressful, as you will be asking yourself how many days you need in Istanbul to get the most out of your trip. Everyone travels differently and can determine the duration of their trip according to their circumstances. Still, if you need to know how many days you need in Istanbul, we suggest a 4-day trip to Istanbul because you can have 4 days visiting most historical places in Istanbul and entertainment places in Istanbul. In the following, we will describe a travel plan to Istanbul for you to know where to visit in these 4 days in Istanbul to make a memorable trip for you and your family. The first day of the trip, Dolmabahce Palace. Dolmabahce Palace is one of the most beautiful royal palaces of the Ottoman rulers, which is one of the famous symbols of Istanbul and Turkey. Dolmabahce Palace is located next to the Bosphorus Strait and has a magnificent view of the Golden Horn next to the magnificent and beautiful palaces. Suggested visit duration, 2 to 3 hours. Address, Istanbul, Besiktas neighborhood, Dolmabahce Palace, Blev. Cost, 90 Turkish lira, including entrance to the palace, harem, and clock tower. Visiting time, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Taksim and Istiklal Street. Strolling in Istanbul is very enjoyable. It will be even more enjoyable if you start this street tour from Istanbul's Taksim Square and continue to the famous Istiklal Street. On Istiklal Street, you can visit numerous museums, get snacks from restaurants and cafes, and ride on its historic tram. As suggested visit duration, 1 to 2 hours. At cost, free. Access time, around the clock. St. Anthony of Padua. St. Anton Church is one of the most famous churches in Istanbul.